In our nation's capital, the Thunder squaring off against the Wizards and walk away with a 21-point win. Let's get you over to the press room where Thunder head coach Mark Daigneault is addressing the media.
I guess we have to start with the ejections. It seemed like at center court at half, you were talking to Goble for a while, I imagine, to get an understanding of that. Did you get a better understanding of the order of ejections?
I disagreed with their judgment after talking to them and watching it at halftime. But I've worked with John Goble a long time, and he worked through it with me, and we ended up agreeing to disagree and both moved on. So that's all I can say about it.
Go ahead, Justin.
What does it say about the group that you guys are able to emotionally kind of reset after something like that? You guys have had those situations before this season and have also come out with wins in that one. Just what does that say about the team?
Yeah, I thought there were a few things tonight that were encouraging. I thought the start Washington got off to, I thought they were hot early in the game shooting the ball. And, we amped up the pressure as the game went on, and our activity as the game went on. And that usually can bite into shot making, and it did, because they went cold in the fourth quarter at the start especially. And I thought our tone had something to do with that defensively. And then the reset after that, those are emotional situations, and everybody's competitive and, amped up after that. But if you're a true competitor, you channel that into execution. And that's what I thought we did. I thought we got better at the game of basketball, from that point on, which is how you have to handle those situations. And we've done that well, like you said, in the past. So I thought that was a good, learning moment and good growth for us.
You talked before about how Hart's impact doesn't always show up on the box score tonight. 20 rebounds, 10 assists at a time when you guys, lost some playmakers due to those ejections. Just can you kind of speak to his overall impact tonight?
Yeah, he was great. He was a warrior, real presence at the paint. I thought he and Chet both, to start the game, they were scoring, but they were scoring on jump shots. Those guys had the rim handled early, and then they really had the rim handled in the fourth, and it turned Washington into kind of a make or miss team at that point, and we got on the other side of the shot variance, but it started with just taking out the easy stuff, and that's what those guys do. So Hart played a great game. Chet played a great game. Those guys were huge for us tonight.
Hey, Coach. I know you attributed a lot of it to shot variance, but the Wizards are usually a team that succumbs to pressure and turnovers a lot, and those are areas that you guys usually thrive in. Was there anything about their style or personnel that sort of took you by surprise tonight?
No, I thought they played well. Credit them. They played well early. Their guys made shots, and some of them made tough shots, early in the game. So you got to tip your hat. But you also don't want to become, helpless in those situations. And I thought that's where our guys did a good job of recognizing that they were in a rhythm, and that shots were falling, and that wasn't going to just change on its own. You have to react to that. And I thought we did, and better as the game went on. And so I thought that was an important point for us tonight.
The beginning of the fourth quarter, you've got Caruso kind of initiating quite a bit of offense. I think he ends up with 5 assists. And then, Kenrich comes in the second half and makes an impact too. What'd you make of those two role players just giving you pop in the second half to kind of turn things for you?
Yeah, we lost 3 really important players in the middle of the game, and it was like the New York game. It was to injury that night, but it's such a luxury when you can have a guy like Caruso that recognizes the situation and knows that he needs to help the team elevate, and he did. And then Kenrich Williams just continues to exhibit great leadership, with his ability to, just be over there cold, not planning on being in the rotation, and all of a sudden circumstances change and he goes in there and has a huge impact and is like immediately ready to play. There's no warm up for him, in any of these games. And we're going to need a team full of guys that have that mentality. And that's why I say it's great leadership, because every single time we call that guy's number, we get him in character and ready to go. Doesn't matter the circumstance.
Coach, another big game from SGA tonight. What is it like seeing the consistency on a night in, night out basis?
Boring. It's the same every night.
Go ahead. Third row, right behind you. Thank you.
I could a word on AJ until the ejection his game.
Yeah, he was awesome. He was playing great. He had more points than minutes, I think, or close to it. So Yeah, he was outstanding. Great game flow. This has been a nice stretch for him playing with Shai a little bit, and being a secondary, handler and a primary handler in some situations. And I just am very impressed for a guy that's as young as he is, playing on a team of this level and with teammates of this level. His confidence doesn't waver. He goes in there and he's diving headfirst in the game, and is aggressive and confident right off the bat. Again, regardless of the role. And we got a lot of guys like that. McCain's been like that. Isaiah Joe's been like that. Wiggins is like that. So it's a luxury when you've got guys that have that sort of self-assurance, regardless of what their role is.
A great night for Oklahoma City here in Washington. And a recap of how this road trip goes for Oklahoma City. They started out in Orlando on the front end of a back-to-back. That took them up to Brooklyn, where they squared off against the Nets. Back-to-back wins there. A couple days off. That brought us here to D.C. After this, the Thunder are going to head out to Philly to take on the 76ers on Monday, and then round it all out in Boston on Wednesday to take on the Celtics before returning home. So that is the longest road trip of the season for Oklahoma City. 5 games, 10 days, and some really good opponents. And up next for the Thunder, another Eastern Conference team in the Philadelphia 76ers, a familiar team for Jared McCain. And the Thunder going to go up against another team who has had a fluctuating season and is going to present a different challenge yet again for OKC.
Yeah, I mean, the 76ers are obviously a very talented team, and a lot of their season has kind of been driven by injuries and availability to players, recently losing Tyrese Maxey for a number of weeks. But this is a team that is battling for their playoff lives right now. They've slipped into that play-in spot in the Eastern Conference, but they need to finish this season out in a strong way. And you can be sure, Paris, they're going to play with some desperation, I'm sure. Again, anytime the defending champions walk into your building, you get that little bit of extra amp. The arena feels it, the road crowd feels it, and of course, we're talking about Philly. I mean, they're going to have a home crowd that's ready for this game.
Yeah, Wells Fargo Arena never ceases to disappoint in terms of the energy inside of that building. But a recap of the last time these two teams met, it was right after Christmas, December 28th. The Thunder won that game 129-104. And it was the paint battle that the Thunder really dominated, putting up a season-high 72 points in the paint. And, of course, the turnovers for Philadelphia really stacking up. The Thunder racked up 31 points off turnovers. Shai and Chet both over 20 points in that game. Tyrese Maxey had himself a night as well. So he won't play for the 76ers. But once again, this is a group that you can't count out because they do have a talented roster.
Absolutely. And, again, we saw it in this game here against the Wizards. I mean, these are NBA players. Yeah. They're capable. We saw the hot shooting start that Washington got off to in this game. And that can often really kind of flip the tone of a game and just the confidence builds for a team. So, you run into whoever's available for Philly in that game. Again, this is a team that with good players, they've got some good depth on the team. They may not have the top of the line players that can really kind of drive the engine like a Tyrese Maxey, but you let those guys get hot and start feeling themselves, and you can run yourself into a difficult night where you're trying to shut that water off later in the game.
The Thunder experienced a little bit of that here in Capital One Arena as they squared off against the Wizards, who had some energy, found some momentum, and had a very close game. Until, of course, that fourth quarter where the Thunder finally slammed the door. A reminder, that game against the 76ers on Monday, it tips off at 7 p.m. Central Time, but Thunder Live will get you going at 5:30 on FanDuel Sports Network. Stop number 4 out of 5 for Oklahoma City on the road. That wraps us up here in D.C. The Thunder squaring off against the Wizards for the second and final time this season. SGA with a 40-piece. Isaiah Hartenstein, a near triple-double, and Oklahoma City now with 11 consecutive victories. They are now going to take this all the way out to Philly, where they'll square off against the 76ers. Until then, thanks so much for tuning in. Have a great rest of your night.